What's going on, guys? If you're just tuning in, you have tuned into 89.5 The Wave with your illustrious host, the one and only Gabby and the Met Show. I have some amazing guests here with me today. 18 and counting. What's We're so excited to have you here, and he also has a special guest with him as well, V.
Hey, how's it going?
Going good. Guys, liven up, liven up.
Oh, I'm here. I'm still waking up.
I
but
understand.
I'm here.
I'm just waking up too. I'm on vacation from my other job, so I know the feeling. But
Right
let's get into it. Let's get into 18 and counting. So the name 18 and counting. What does it mean?
Man, I'm so glad this is where we're starting. This is one of those things, like every interview I've had, I'm like, when's someone gonna ask? When am I gonna ask?
No, we like to know the
So
origin.
it's a name I've been sitting on for a long time, and a lot of people have assumptions about it, and it's really nice to actually get to speak on it.
Okay.
So it's a name I came up with in middle school.
Okay.
I don't know, like 7th, 8th grade or something, and it started out as me like counting personalities, just trying to understand how I got along with a wide range of people,
Okay.
One of the city kids, went to school in the county. I'm certainly one of those dudes, and
All right.
that's a complex situation when you're meeting all these different people and like trying to understand how everything works,
Absolutely.
So yeah, it was like this, it was this thing I did as a child, and I always drew things, so it was just kind of like a little mantra I had for myself.
Okay.
And skip all that. Like by the time I got to high school, I started making a lot of different types of art, painting, drawing, sculpture, photography, graphic design, as well as writing songs, rapping, and making beats, production.
Okay.
And, so this 18 and counting kind of switched from like this personalities thing to more of like aliases for making different types of art, because I just didn't want to be stuck. I didn't want to be that artist that's known for that one thing. That was just like always my biggest thing. Is like I'm interested in all this and I'm decent at it. And I care enough about it to get good at it. So
Right.
So I had all these just different aliases for all these things, and later on, when I make a sculpture and I write a song about it and then make a beat about it, it's just too many. It's like too much self collaboration. It's just kind of silly,
Okay.
So like the individual names don't matter as much anymore, but the just this excuse to make a lot of different things,
Okay. So you
and,
don't like
and
being...
treat them all equally important,
Okay.
So it's like, yeah, it is a confusing thing, and like and like there's a lot of other things like by design, like what the number 18 has that no other number has. It's like the straightest number and the most crooked number, so it's got like this like diversity to it. The and counting just kind of ensues that it could be more. It's an everlasting thing, and it's really just kind of my way of just kind of branding the ability to at least attempt the infinite.
Absolutely. I think it's pretty cool that it creates a place where you don't have to put yourself in a box, because you have many different talents, and when you have a lot of different talents and you're multi-talented, you don't want to just box yourself into one thing. You want to be able to be creative and get out there and do those things. So I'll have to ask you a St. Louis question. What high school did you go to?
Oh, Eureka, EHS.
And are you originally from St. Louis?
I'm not. No, I'm from Illinois.
Well, what high school did you go to?
Eisenhower High School, EHS.
All right. We have to keep it so St. Louis, but with you wearing many hats, and when it comes to music and art, what was the inspiration that created a spark in you to get involved in creating art, being a music artist, and even teaching art? Because I saw that you went to the Institute of Art in Chicago, right?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
What led from there?
So since, I don't know, like a lot of the things I did after school, I was doing while I was in school. Like I was in Chicago, so right up the highway, right down the street. So I came back home a lot, for different art and craft sales, and I was making things, making shirts, making small paintings, and just and painting murals, doing the live art thing, just doing everything I could to expand, like stay active and active at home.
Okay.
But also like making money to get through school, and after school, I got back, and it was kind of the same thing. I started making music after college, just because I was kind of missing my friends from school, So I was like, well, I guess I don't know when I'm going to hear these songs, at the parties anymore, because, So I took up DJing just honestly to kind of fill a void and to just make sure that a certain a certain caliber of music was still represented
Okay.
wherever I was, which happened to be back home. So
Right.
that was a big, honestly, a big inspiration for me to just keep playing dope tunes, and it was easy at that time. It was like you got a
Okay.
laptop, you just get the program and just figure it out. So it was very much just kind of throwing myself in, and one thing kind of leads to the next, and
Okay.
you know.
With your music, I had the opportunity to listen to your music, and then also the combination with the Only Ensemble. I
Sure.
heard a broad mixture of abstract, orchestral elements, hip hop, maybe even a mix of alternative. That's
Yeah.
just what
It's,
I
it's,
got.
oh, it's all no, it's all there.
Off of
It's
it.
all there for sure.
For someone who has never listened to your music or would like to get into listening to your music, if you had to, I guess, put yourself in a genre, or not even a genre, if you could describe your music, what would you describe the feel or the type of music that you make? And that is a question for both you guys.
I don't know. You want to jump on this one?
I mean, experimental is
Okay.
the word that I associate the most with. It's all kind of, there's all these sounds and attributes of different instruments that are up for grabs now. We have so many
Absolutely.
tools at our disposal. We use a lot of electronics, so
Okay.
electronic is another
Absolutely.
classification, I guess, if you want to try to classify. But yeah, we're just kind of trying to take things that have existed as a certain way for so long in a particular tradition, like maybe an instrument like violin,
Okay.
and just sort of like stretching the boundaries on that. And
Sure.
we do that with a lot of the other instruments, but I'm the violinist. That's why I'm
Yeah.
talking about that one.
I think it's really neat, the concept that you guys have come together with. Even with your song Roaches.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to listen to it. It was such a mixture of that hip hop element, but then I also got other vibes. So I'm like, okay, I
Yeah.
can really jam to this, and I want other people to listen to it. I see that you do a lot of work with art text. I found that very, very interesting.
Yeah.
What brought you on to, like, I guess the typography or art text?
Yeah, I think that's, in a strange way, that's kind of why I make music. Is I was always a visual artist. I always identify myself as an artist since I was very, very young.
Okay.
And at some point, I started just coming up with kind of like little clever phrases, but I would illustrate them. Like I can't think of an example right now, but I would just make these little tiny drawings. I'd draw out some words, and a little picture that kind of illustrated, and try to like bind it together.
Yeah.
And I would cut that out and just like pack, just stuck them up on the walls around my room when I was young. And and I was also interested in just like listening to a lot of different music, and like specifically hearing how people related to music, like what they allowed, what type of behaviors, and like what type of sounds, and just like, I don't know, I was just like always interested in how people communicated around music, and specifically like the amount or lack of criticism that people had for things.
Okay.
And and a friend of mine, I remember my friend Anthony said it to me a while ago, like when he was just seeing my drawings, he's like, yeah, this could be a song. He's like, he was like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I guess I should try that, So it always started off as a visual thing, and I kind of go through cycles, and so it's
Okay.
like I spent some time writing, and then I spent some time making beats, and I'd spend some time writing, and all the while like painting and doing this text art all the time. But really, it's kind of just it's just kind of like an explosion of the songs, like I'm getting to the point where I take song lyrics and I'll
Okay.
carve them out of 4x8 sheets of foam, and it's just like large scale, like it becomes sculptural. Then it's like, well, what is it now? Is it still a song lyric? Is it, am I jumping the gun? Because the famous people have
Yeah.
murals painted on them, like famous
Right.
people have enormous, statues of themselves, and it's always that always kind of bothers me. The lack of allowance people will give you
Okay.
if you're not
Yeah.
of that caliber,
Absolutely.
and it's just one of those things where I'm just gonna do it myself. Like all these things exist, all of these monuments, if you will, of song lyrics. Like this is what they'll probably end up being. But to me, it's just my way of like really diving into the words and really proving to myself how much I care about these things. It gives me time,
Absolutely.
gives me time to think about it,
Yeah, and with the St. Louis music scene, especially locally, sometimes it's harder for certain artists to break out and get their name out there, but it looks like you've created a formula for success along with the art, the music, DJing, graphic design. I guess for any local up and coming artist who is possibly inspired by you, what could you tell them, or what inspiration could you give them to where they could step out and maybe, do the music and express themselves and not be afraid of criticisms that they might face from St. Louis? How did you overcome any of that?
Just yesterday I was hanging out with my guy DJ Crucial, getting some turntable repair work in. That's my dude. I mean, we talking about everything, but like,
yeah,
it's like it's like a therapy session hanging out with him.
Nothing wrong with that.
But he's playing a record that was sent to him by this UK group called the Last Jazz Club, and in there I heard a line where the guy goes, if you can't be yourself, then you really ain't that dope.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, yeah, and that's spot on. Like, I think a lot of people, like, I don't really, like you mentioned, like a formula for success, and like that's really cool to hear, because I don't know, like my formula is just do what you have time for, and make time for it.
That is true. You have to invest a lot of time.
And I don't really wait around. I kind of like take situations and turn them into something else. The first show for the Only Ensemble was on a riverboat, which is incredible, but that was offered to me as a DJ gig, and I was just super excited about the unit. So I just put in the extra work, because like I mixed the sound on our tiny stage while performing, and it's like,
oh wow,
you just got to turn things into other things.
Right.
And I've often said, like, the reason why I started DJing is because I wanted to know what the ceilings were made out of in clubs, so I could, all right, cool, can I hang some foam from that?
Right.
Yeah, it's a DJ gig, but I brought this, so you just kind of have to deal with that, So I think, being confident and, assertive is enormous, but I think for the most part, just do what's you, be honest. I think a lot of people try to specifically pick up on the trends of, what's going on with the sound. It's like I avoid it the most I can, water and oil, just like completely. And, it feels good, like telling people firm no's to things that they are all about, and like, and it's like not as an insult, but it's just like as a pride, you know what I mean? It like keeps me on track. It's like, I don't really sample. Why? Because it's more fun to not know what's going on, but know that I heard that with my real ears in a real room at some point. And it's like, I can't explain what these sounds are, but I saw it happen.
Right.
And it's like, that's like, it's fun to sift through things like that. It's fun to make it a little more difficult and, a little bit more like a rubber band ball, it's just like little pieces, just kind of, it's dense, but it's still a little unpredictable in there.
And you can never go wrong in a lot of aspects with unpredictability and creativity. I will always say that.
For sure.
Good word.
But on the music tip, when you're working on music, a song, an album, as a group, what is your process? Do you do a lot of the producing and writing, or is that a collective effort?
A little bit of both. I mean, you want to speak?
Well, Stan does the most work.
I do a lot of work. That's true. It's funny. Like I record a lot. Like, and that's not. And we're on, go.
Right.
And go. It's like catching parts of your conversation. Like, I'm putting mics in the middle of the room. I'm just like, I'm always trying to get like the best recording I can, but I'm also totally fine with the crummiest version that's like readily available, and just processing it, not being afraid of that dirt, just like taking that in as part of the texture. But I just try to record as much as I can, and then go through and sift through it and find like the little pieces, walk around the house and just listen to a 20-minute drum solo, or
and we do get together and pool our ideas and kind of we'll jam a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot comes out of that interaction with each other.
And a lot of that plays out live too. Like
Yeah.
the live element is the studio element to me. Like
Okay.
I record every show I possibly can, and I'll use, you know, samples from us playing another song live. You know, just because it's got a different sound quality to it. And I've never really been the type that goes into, you know, it's like, oh, I want to make a beat. I start from scratch most of the time. You know.
Okay.
It's not. I don't have just like my drum kits. You know, I got my horn stabs. It's like,
Right.
oh well, let's go back to July 2016 and listen to that 15-minute didgeridoo solo, and then I'll just pull out that one little section, and then that's the bass line for what I made today.
Mm-hmm.
It's so yeah. I'm certainly handling the recording, and sometimes I'll let the arrangements come to me naturally. You know, like we recorded Sarah playing mandolin.
Okay.
And there wasn't any plan for it. It's just like, this is what I want to do. And I go from there, and just it all kind of like pieces together. And I've found that sometimes it works better working with everyone one at a time, sort of
Yeah.
collecting, because then everyone actually gets to breathe and not compromise and like making room for the groove, you know. But
It sounds like it gives everyone that individual element to where everyone has the opportunity to really bring out themselves and express themselves as far as music. Would you agree, or
Yeah.
in a sense?
Yeah, I absolutely think so.
Okay.
yeah, I think it kind of keeps that collage element too that I'm
Yeah.
really attached to. You know, you had mentioned that earlier, and people have been kind of saying it to me a little bit more lately. Is like we're just kind of making up our own genre. It's like we're just kind of carving our own lane. And I think when you see us perform live, that's an obvious thing. You know, we're all
Yeah.
very different people. You know, certainly like an eclectic mix of folks on the stage, an eclectic mix of actual instruments and applications to those instruments, and then an eclectic mix of, you know, the hardware and how these instruments are actually harnessed, you know,
Right.
how they're put together. And to record in that same manner and like to put stuff together like that, it's supposed to have that same feeling. It's supposed to feel like a lot of kind of familiar things happening at once, but just thrown at you in this way that you have to think about. If you don't like it, that's cool, but you have to think about it.
Right.
And that's like most important, you know, just having breeding critical ears, you know.
Right. Well, I guess my next question for you is combining art and music. Have you done that in any of your recent shows, or can we look forward to you doing that anytime soon?
For sure. I've got this I roll around with this horse head in my bag right now. Like this is kind of like the mascot of our next project.
Guys, that is awesome.
I'm not gonna
I
leak
think
too
it's
much
creepy.
info. It's pretty out there, but that's basically the mascot for our next project. Which honestly, I say this and I know how it's actually going to happen, but I'm trying to step back a little bit on like over conceptualizing,
Okay.
you know, the album, and just kind of like keep things a little more stripped down, keep it a little more open ended.
Yeah.
But Animal Skins is the name of the next project, and I do have some visual ideas, including this horse head, just kind of shooting it in different situations,
Okay.
and it's like that horse head being the mascot for all animals, and whatever, you know, and our
Yeah.
relationships to that term itself, all the places and methods of obtaining. I don't know. It's out there, but I don't know. You know, I certainly spend a lot of time figuring out what's the text going to look like for this
Okay.
project or this season or this run of shows. You know, what's the icon? What's the image? Like I spend a lot of time just going through it over and over and over again. And
Right.
I sit on titles forever. You know, I sit on titles for 2 years before it actually becomes a thing.
Okay.
So I don't know. I kind of let things happen slowly. But I'm probably going to do some illustration work to be projected at this show this Friday at the Art Museum. Just because it's the Art Museum and I've got a projector, it's like I got to do something about that. I can't just
Let's-
leave it there.
Let's actually talk about
You know?
that with your upcoming, could I call it an exhibit or performance?
Performance.
Okay,
Yeah.
your upcoming performance at the St. Louis Art Museum. Let's talk a little bit about that. What will you be doing?
Well, it's a free event they do every Friday night. At the
Okay.
Art Museum.
Last Friday.
Last Friday, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they always have a musical performance or two, and we're the the special guest performers for this time around. The theme is circus.
Okay.
We're not necessarily like playing into that, and we don't have to, but
Right.
but they'll have all kinds of circus events going on, and then at 8:30 we get to perform in their auditorium,
Okay.
which sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
We're
Sounds good
definitely
in
going to
there.
have to come out and check you guys out. So that's Friday, 8:30?
Yeah.
Friday
Absolutely.
8:30.
All right. Anything else going on? I know you had an exhibit at UMSL, correct?
Yeah, that's still up.
Still up.
That'll be up until December.
Okay.
Which I was gonna say in December, we're doing a EP release party,
Okay.
a dual EP release party with Matthias and the Pirates
Okay.
at the Ready Room. So
Very popular.
looking forward to
spot.
that. Kind of so like this Friday, basically just gonna whip up some concepts for the visuals for this EP that's coming up
Okay.
and use those to kind of supplement. It's not a part of the show per se, you know what I mean? It's not gonna be like this whole synced up video. It's just like it's kind of like casually rolling out some illustrations, some ideas, just kind of like getting my gears turning.
Okay.
For how this EP is gonna appear in December for this release party. But we've got some tricks up our sleeves for what's gonna happen. But most
Okay.
important is gonna be getting the music done and just performing it the best we can. And it's always this funny thing where the more we play something, the better we are. And I'm not a huge fan of practicing. I like leaving things a little open ended.
Yeah.
Because it just brings that rawness out. Just not having everything so tied down tight that everyone knows exactly what's gonna happen. It's like we could play the same set every month and people will still come to the shows because it sounds different every time we play it. We switch up the arrangement of the gear, we switch up the behaviors of the songs, we throw curveballs at each other all the time.
Okay.
Like sometimes I hit the wrong button and it just gets loud for a minute and we just have to like adjust to it. It's like
Right.
it's a pretty loose. There's a lot of loose ends. That's kind of like the jazzy part of it. It's kind of like the more ambient, more abstract part of it, just keeping things loose.
All right.
But I'm excited about the art museum show because that is certainly a different space for us, but it still comes with a little bit more of a DIY edge. We've got to bring in some sound to
Okay.
supplement it.
Yeah.
So it's going to have a different character than just going up to the big venue that's got their system and already figured out.
Right.
So
We
that's
love
going
a
to be
challenge,
fun.
though.
Yeah. It's
or we accidentally seek them out all the time.
yeah, right.
Well, it seems like the best things always happen with a challenge, especially when you don't necessarily know the outcome of something. It doesn't always end up like that, but I can say a lot of times from experience, just letting it go and figuring out from there, it turns out pretty great. And I believe you
All
guys
the
would
time.
do an
Oh.
amazing job,
Right on.
for real. I want the people of St. Louis to get to know you guys a little better, so I'm gonna ask 5 off-the-wall questions. Nothing
right.
crazy.
All right.
All right, question number 1. Favorite color and why?
You got one?
Man, I don't like. I
This
have
is
a hard
probably
time.
gonna be hard for you.
Well, yeah, I have a hard time. I mean, yellow has been real for me lately.
Yeah, it's a good mood.
It changes, it switches around, but I'm just into yellow right now. I don't know what the deal is. Yellow and black. I think maybe it's just it hasn't been its turn yet in my life.
Okay.
Or maybe like this is. I'm just sometimes I like to just do things repetitively just because it's easier for people to remember. It's more fun to have constraints sometimes.
Yeah.
So I've kind of been sticking to the yellow and black look a little bit.
Okay. What about you, V? What is your favorite color?
Mine's black.
Okay.
It always has been since I was a little girl. I had a pair of black ballet slippers, and my mother said I slept in them. I wore them so often. She had to force them off me to get me in the tub. But ever since then, that's been my favorite color.
You know what? I'm finding that maybe black is my favorite color because when I look in my closet and I look at the color schemes, it's just a whole bunch of black and maybe a few other colors. So maybe black is actually my favorite color deep down. All right, food. We know St. Louis is very infamous for Emo's Pizza, barbecue, crab rangoon, a lot of different things. What is your favorite St. Louis food? Or what do you like to indulge in on a binge?
Oh man, I mean I get down on barbecue pretty often. I think it's like for a lot of reasons, I think barbecue is like one of those foods that you can always talk about race around barbecue.
Yeah.
Like if you get, like it's just inherent. It's just in there, just like all the
Right.
different all the different places, all the different styles, and even if it's not like race particularly, you can talk
Right.
about your background and like how you used to get into food. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
and it's just like there's something about it that's just so casual, and usually happens in good times outdoors. With like
Absolutely.
yeah. So
Absolutely.
I don't know. Maybe like if we're packaging an environment with the food, I'm gonna go with the generic barbecue.
Okay. Well, you can never really go wrong with barbecue. I'm kind of barbied out on barbecue because I ate so much this summer. Any favorite spots you like to get barbecue from?
All of them.
All of them.
That's true.
All of them. I travel like barbecue spots, record shops. Just like that's the move.
Can never go wrong with that. So, do you visit like vintage vinyl a lot?
Yeah, I mean I hit up all the spots here in town. I
Okay.
get some things online as well. Like I
Okay.
try to distribute my vinyl spending
Yeah.
across the board.
Okay.
Music record shop shows me a lot of love. I've been kind of hanging out with them for the 2 locations that they've had 3. So the last 2 spots I've been kicking it with them pretty well.
Okay.
But it's like no store has it all. So you got to kind of sift through all of them, and you got to travel, and you just never know what you're gonna find in between here and there.
That is so true. My sister, for example, she's a huge Prince and Michael Jackson fan, and she has doggone near every single Prince vinyl. You had to travel
Yeah.
so many different places to find those vinyls. So I understand the work and the time, especially if you're trying to put a collection together
Mhm.
of vinyl. You can't just go to one store. You gotta go to
It's
several,
involved.
right? It's some work. It's some great work, but I think that's pretty awesome, though. I guess my next question would be motivation. If you needed some motivation at the moment, what album would you put on to get through needing motivation?
See. All right.
You first.
I don't know. It changes, If it's a matter of motivation, guaranteed Steve Reich's Music for 18 Musicians is just like a fantastic piece.
Okay.
It's a motivating piece. It's like 40-minute performance, and it just goes and goes and goes, just keeps collecting, and it's like it's just steady. Or anything by him or Philip Glass for that matter.
Okay.
But that piece in particular is just like a guaranteed, just like brain reset.
Okay. What about you, V?
Well, lately I've been catching up on Andrew Bird and all his music, and I haven't
Okay.
always known about him or been a fan, but he's doing some interesting things with the violin,
Okay.
and I think our backgrounds with the instrument are similar. I can tell by his style of playing. So
All right.
I'm trying to find people who are kind of like thinking outside of the box with that instrument.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. I think with violin, it's come such a long way. People don't necessarily look at it as just one orchestral instrument. It can be added to so many different elements and so many different vibes, and it's great that people are taking that and experimenting with it. I think it's pretty awesome in my eyes.
Yeah.
Let's see. If you had the opportunity to pick anyone to perform with, either dead or alive, they don't even have to be a music artist, someone you would just want to bring on stage, who would that person be? Or group?
Yeah, that's gotta be it for sure.
Okay.
I felt we were thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if I could just like sit on Bjork's shoulders while she's doing anything, that'd be cool.
Just get that visual, yeah.
Yeah, like, yeah, that'd be that. Yeah, that's I don't dive much into hypotheticals, so
Okay.
it's tough for me to
Yeah.
get too far into it, but she's just incredible. She's
Alright.
always switching it up, and I think she's got like a solid career, everything, it's
Yeah.
just, y'all get it,
Yeah. And my last question is, this is for you. If people want to find out more information or learn a little bit more about you and get into your music, your art, and everything, where can they find you?
18 and counting, no spaces, hit that Google up. You
All
know?
right.
Like I think there's something, when you operate on a local level all the time, I think people tend to contain their expectations of you and kind of contain your scale. It's like I see people all the time that have known me and known my work for 10 plus years, but then I tell them, oh yeah, I'm playing Lou Fest. They're like, oh, so what are you DJing in the band? And I'm like, no.
No,
and,
I have my own set, thank you very much.
It's like it's one of those things where people will show us love, but since we eat sandwiches next to each other, and we're like sitting at the red lights next to each other, it's like you just don't think to like really get into the breadth of their work. And I get it. I'm guilty of that too, but I'm just fiery about it. I just can't not be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've gotten the game early. I got a lot of 18 and counting across the boards.
Yeah.
I've been on that name. On that name as myself since I was like 12, but since on the internet since I was like 17. You know what I mean? It's like
phenomenal.
It's like I got on it, so it's all there. It's all out there. But with these releases coming up, I'll be putting them on the 18 and Counting Bandcamp page. It'll all pop up on Spotify. The last album, The Birds of This Hour, is on there. The next one, Animal Skins, will be on there in December.
Okay.
So I try to do those things to make it easy, but at the same time, I like to make it a little difficult. You gotta
Absolutely.
pick around a little bit. As far as the Only Ensemble, we don't have like a formal page, so it's just kind of like operating as far as like catching the gathering of it all.
Okay.
By hashtag, but also on that Google, the Only Ensemble,
Right.
no spaces.
Okay.
It's you'll find some stuff. It's out there. Photos and.
Okay.
Some stellar videos of us performing live, and more stuff to come soon. But we've been a unit for just 2.5 years, so it's still relatively early.
Okay.
But we've got some quality material.
All right. Well, I would definitely like to say I so enjoyed myself having you guys here, and we would definitely like to open the door and extend our arms of love for you guys to definitely come back.
For sure.
When the new project drops, or if you just have any new work you want to come and talk about it, you have that open door to come and do so.
Right.
So, anything else you guys want to say, or
Come to the art
Vive
museum.
talked so much today.
Yeah.
Guys, come out and check them out at the art museum Friday.
Yeah, this Friday.
8:30?
8:30.
All right.
And if you want to get your after party on, because I do DJ.
All
I will
right.
be DJing on Friday as well at B-Side right afterwards. Me and my girl Orak are going to be playing them heavy jams at B-Side to the late night.
All
So,
right.
certainly check us out at the Art Museum. But if you can't get out there early, or if you don't like live music and would rather just hear some cuts on the system, check us out at B-Side. It's all free.
All right. Well, you have 2 opportunities to check out 18 and Counting and The View. The only, I don't know why I have The View in my head. The only, you guys have a view. 18 and Counting and The View. Thank you. The only, I did it again. We're going to have to edit that
It's
out.
all
Paul.
good. It's all good.
No edits.
Straight live. 18 and Counting and The Only. Get it together, Gabby. Only on 89.5 The Wave. Thank you guys so much.
Right on.
I apologize. I got
I need one of those play buttons. What? I was sitting there wondering the whole time, what does that button do?
Yo, hey, you get the bag.